best in the hospital. People outside know what's needed as well. And it's active involvement that's needed, not just giving people a patient satisfaction survey, which drives me bananas. They think that's involving the public, which is absolutely ludicrous. But there's loads of examples. I mean, I'm not being fanciful about these things that the patients and public have been involved in. There's loads of things that they can be involved in. There's loads of organisations actually doing it, so there's no excuses there. Frontline nurses depend on their senior peers in the organisation to speak up on their behalf as well and support them. And executive nurses need to remember this and act appropriately. They need to ensure that board members and senior managers understand the importance of nursing care, and patient experiences need to be incorporated into the board agenda alongside budgets and finance to ensure that the quality of care is permanently in the spotlight. And we know from research that's been done by King's Fund and the Burdick Trust that this isn't actually happening. They also need to ensure that board members and senior managers understand their responsibilities for safeguarding patients, and that there are open lines of communication and support to enable staff to voice their concerns without fear of repercussion. Safeguarding and human rights training should be mandatory for all staff in the organisation. Most of all, nurse leaders need to realise that they've had an operational role rather than a strategic role, and I think this is where things go wrong sometimes. The directors of nursing seem to think they should be up there, at the top, with everybody else sort of doing all the executive type stuff. They actually need to be down on the front line. This is where the old matron used to be in a hospital. You were frightened to death of the old matron in the hospital. Somebody give you about 5 minutes out of when she was coming up the corridor. And the nursing officers as well. They were always coming around the wards 2 or 3 times a day. It's time they all got back to where they should be, on the wards. And it's no point in saying we've got a photograph of honour on the wall, which someone told me, which obviously is. What good is a photograph on the wall? They must ensure that appropriate staffing levels are maintained and that the appropriate skill mixing and training is provided to ensure good quality care. As far as the academic institutions are concerned, they need to ensure that they have robust recruitment and selection processes in place to ensure they're taking individuals who've got the right values for the job. And I was horrified at a meeting I went to a couple of weeks ago in Cardiff with the Nurse and Midwifery Council when this came up. Somebody asked, how do you recruit nurses? Do they just have to have 3 A's and they get in, or do you actually have an interview? And the 2 people from the NMC didn't know. Now they're the people who set pre-reg nurse education curriculum and then are monitoring it. The academic institutions need to train and involve members of the public in recruitment of students and also in the student education programme. And I went to University of Glamorgan a few weeks ago. They have got this wonderful laboratory that's cost absolutely millions, where they've set up a replica of a ward, which is for student nurses to learn on because they're only supernumerary in the hospital. And they have got robots on this ward, which are real people, like you and I, and they can set these robots to talk to you, and they can actually set up conditions in them, so they can make a robot have a stroke, or they can make a robot have a heart attack and this sort of thing, and then they can sort of care for them in that environment, which is very nice, but very costly. And they were showing around this unit, and I said, yeah, it's very nice, wonderful, all the rest of it. And at the end I said, but there's only one thing you've got missing here. And they said, what's that? And I said, you've got no patients, relatives or carers. They've got an armchair and a seat at the side of the bed for someone to sit in, but there's no interaction there. And they said, well, yes, okay, yeah, well, we would like to do that, so hopefully we are going to be working on it with them. The academic institutions need to make sure that they improve student communication skills with appropriate training and consider the needs of an older population with a nurse education programme. How often do we hear that is it some ridiculous amount of people using the NHS are over 65, and yet nobody seems to have clocked it, just carrying on regardless. They need to provide more hands-on training and put a greater focus on emphasising the importance of the essence of care, which should come through good mentoring, but qualified nurses need the skills and time to be able to mentor effectively. And they must ensure that students understand their responsibilities once they're qualified under their code of practice, and also in terms of safeguarding as well. We'll get into the NMC, we'll be here all day. Anyway, The Nursing Midwifery Council, as I said, we've met them and had discussions with them. They do get a weekly email from us usually, and I think one of my colleagues the other day said they've probably got a little voodoo doll on their desk that they stick a pin in every time they see an email come from me. But we're just not letting it go because we don't think they're protecting patients. And not only that, they're not protecting the nursing professions. If they were protecting patients, they would protect the nursing profession. And all of those nurses out there who are trying to do a good job are getting branded with the same as everybody else. So, you know, and I brought this up with the chair the other day, and he just said, our main aim is protecting the public. He didn't acknowledge the nursing side, which I thought was appalling. Anyway, the Nursing and Midwifery Council need to closely monitor the delivery of the curriculum for nurse education. It was interesting when we had this discussion with the chair. He said that in Wales, the deans of the universities think that they're too heavy-handed with their monitoring of nurse education. And I said, well, I hope you're not going to lax it then, because as far as we're aware of what we see, it's not working. And the nursing